There was one Christmas I remember in particular. We had moved to Michigan. Our families lived in Indiana and Illinois, and we wanted our kids to be around family during the holidays. We decided to drive through the night so the girls would sleep. That was the same night that our Sunday school class was celebrating Christmas together. They had rented a trolley that was going to drive around looking at lights, and they were singing Christmas carols and had hot chocolate on the trolley. They knew we were heading out of town that night. They stopped by and wished us a Merry Christmas. It was so hard to leave that fun and that celebration with the family we were developing there in Michigan. But we did it. We got in the car, we drove all night. It wasn't a bad Christmas. Everybody was glad to see everybody else, but we did have to visit 3 different families in the short amount of time that we were there. It was crazy. It was exhausting, and we were trying to make everybody happy. Unfortunately, I did not have the wise counsel of the woman that I am so excited to share with you today, Lori Wildenberg, who has written 7, count them, 7 parenting books. Here's a couple of her titles: The Messy Life of Parenting, Powerful and Practical Ways to Strengthen Family Connections; Messy Journey, How Grace and Truth Offer the Prodigal a Way Home; Messy Hope. Can you tell? Life as a parent is kind of messy. Messy Hope is about helping your child overcome anxiety, depression, or suicidal ideation. One of my favorites when I met Lori was Raising Little Kids with Big Love, and then Raising Big Kids with Supernatural Love. Because if you're raising big kids, you know you need that supernatural empowering of Jesus kind of love to navigate that parenting journey. Anyway, you get an idea for some of Lori's parenting expertise. And today I am so excited to share this longtime friend with you. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Lori. She is a licensed parent and family educator. She, of course, is an author. She's a speaker. She is truly one of the most down-to-earth voices helping Christian families build strong, lasting, God-centered relationships. Her latest book, which again, I was so thankful for, is called Grandparents Make Grand Partners: How to Have an Eternal Impact on Your Grandchild's Life.
Oh my gosh, Misty, God is doing cool things. This book has hit the Amazon bestseller list. And this is the saddest thing. 1 in 10 relationships are estranged. 1 in 10, that's like an epidemic. This
Mhm.
is not God's heart for families. And even Christian counselors are recommending cutting off or estrangement. It's awful. This is the work of the enemy, if you ask me. God's first institution is the family, the nuclear family. And now, as grandparents, we're not part of that nuclear family anymore. We are now extended family. But family is critical in raising kids. And um, gosh, kids need up to 4 to 6 adults in their life to positively impact them regarding faith, morals, and values. And grandparents are the perfect ones because who's going to love those kids in the same way? So we got to fix this, right?
You're on a mission.
I am on a
You
mission.
are on a God-given mission.
Woo!
Yeah, watch out. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this amazing woman that's sitting across the Zoom room from me. She is married to her college sweetheart, Tom. They have 4 adult kids, 3 in laws, 5 grands, and of course, one beloved golden doodle named Toby. Lori lives in the foothills of the Rockies. She hikes whenever she can and truly walks out the message that she teaches and writes about, building connection that lasts a lifetime and beyond. Now, because we're heading into the holiday season, Lori and I want to talk about something that sits close to every mama's heart. How do you build and protect healthy family relationships with your parents, your in-laws, maybe with your adult kids, their spouses, possibly even your spouse's children and extended family? Now, that's a lot of family dynamics right there. In the past few episodes, I have shared on wisdom for families, building with wisdom, and what that looks like to honor one another as we build godly homes on the wisdom of God and not the world. Today, Lori and I, we're going to take that conversation and dive a little deeper. Hey there, marvelous mom. Welcome back to Mom2Mom Mentoring. And if this is your first time, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I'm your host, Misty Hughes. I'm an ICF certified transformation coach, wife, mom of 4 incredible adults, stepmom to 2, mother in love to a multitude, and now a very grateful grandma. Around here, we talk about helping kingdom-minded moms like you live powerfully, lead with purpose, love with passion, one meaningful conversation at a time. Now, if you're new to this space, Mom2Mom Mentoring was born from a deep place in my own story. Years of single motherhood, ministry coaching, and walking through every messy, holy, beautiful season that women face. I knew moms didn't need another pretty packaged how-to. We needed a safe, honest circle where you could breathe, hear wisdom, laugh, cry, ask questions, and grow together. That's the heartbeat of this podcast. Real women, real faith, real life, and the kind of encouragement that helps you flourish from the inside out. And speaking of circles, I would love to invite you to join ours. I have a private Facebook community called Mom2Mom Mentoring, the same name as the podcast. And it's truly where everyday magic happens. It's where we take conversations deeper, share stories. There's opportunities to pray for one another, swap ideas, laugh about the things only moms can understand, and walk out what we're learning. Now, if you crave connection with other women who get it, who love Jesus, love their families, but also feel stretched and overwhelmed at times, you belong to this community. I'll drop the link in the show notes so you can have it and hop in and join us. Now, I'd like to dive in to today's episode. Today, I want to invite you to sit down and cozy up with Lori and I as we catch up and unpack what it looks like to build strong, gracious, God-honoring relationships with our in-laws and or our adult kids, especially in a season where expectations can get a little interesting. So go grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and settle in. But if you're listening to us on the go, then pop in those AirPods and let's dive in to this conversation. Lori, I just want to start by saying how honored I am to have you here on this podcast.
Oh, Misty, I am so excited to be in ministry with you. And we've done ministry together, and I was thrilled that you asked me. I'm honored to be here.
So, well, thank you. Here's the thing that I been thinking about. I became a grandparent before I was married. She's 10 now. And Lori, I read all kinds of parenting books when I was the
Oh,
first 10
yeah.
years of parenting.
Of course, we
And then
all
your
did,
book,
right?
you invited me to be a part of your launch team. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have never read a grandparenting book. And is there even any out there? We talk about how grand it is to be grandparents, and we love being grandparents.
Yes, it's awesome. We
They
have
have
a call from the Lord to teach our children's children. Deuteronomy 4:9. We are called to do it.
my husband's word of the year the last 2 years has been legacy.
Perfect.
And so we have talked over the last couple years about how to intentionally sow into the lives of our grandchildren a lot.
Oh,
And
that's
we
perfect.
we
Yeah.
do things specifically to do that, and we pray for them. But sometimes we've been like, okay, how do we talk to them about Jesus? How do we navigate that space? So your book has been very, very timely and given us more to talk about and
Oh,
think
good.
about and pray specifically for. I find myself like even watching more for those opportunities.
Yes.
So
Yes. So,
anyway,
so much more like intentional, more tuned in, even just
yeah,
raises the bar a little.
you have spent decades building strong families and connections, and you, Lori, apparently live it personally with your in-laws. You've had to learn to navigate life with your in-laws as a younger mom.
We watch our parents parent us, and we watch our parents grandparent our children. And we always pick the things that are good and repeat those and sift through the things that maybe need a little tweaking and might not be our style or our direction. And we choose to do something different. But one
So
thing
it's
I got with my mother-in-law is that she was my friend. And I think that's maybe the way to go with your in-laws is to be their friend. And you're not their mom. I think that shows great respect for our adult children's spouse rather than just think of them as your son's wife or your daughter's husband. They are your in-loves, your in-laws, they're your in-loves. And to have a friendship, I think is actually pretty critical.
so you had said, we're not their parent. But I gotta tell you, one of the greatest honors I have found with my son-in-law and one of my daughter-in-laws is when they call me mom.
I know that is pretty sweet.
Oh my
Yes.
I'm like, "Okay, whatever you want." And one thing as a mom that love is to be a cheerleader for not just my kids, but for their spouses. You said you were a friend with your mother-in-law and you married your high school sweetheart. So obviously, you already had a relationship with Tom's parents.
Tom's family moved when he was a senior in high school, and then he lived with a friend to finish out his senior year. And we actually didn't start dating till college. So getting to know his parents came more by like going out there for a vacation or an extended time. And you do get to know people on a different level, right? When you stay in their home and
What are some things that you, as a young wife, and then as a mom, what are some things that you would say, "Do this," and some things that you would say, "This probably wasn't the best choice I made at that time
yeah.
to develop that relationship and friendship?"
Yeah, I think one thing that is really hard for those of us as, we're moms and we're used to calling the shots and organizing the family schedule, the family time. And then comes that shift, right? When you become an in law or a grandparent, because you are now not the one that's in charge of all of those things. My mother in law did that quite well. It was a rare occasion when she would offer advice. Oftentimes, unsolicited advice is viewed as criticism, even if it is not meant to be. And I can recall a time, here I am, 4 kids are all grown adults, and I was watching my grandson once a week. And I had taken him out in the stroller, and my daughter-in-law got home before we got back from our little walk. And she completely panicked. She's new mama panicking, right? I came back with my grandson and she was just fit to be tied. And rather than me having empathy for her situation, I said, well, why didn't you look at it like you got a couple extra minutes? You could go change your clothes and, he's safe. He's with me. All is well. I totally dismissed her new mama worry. And my mother-in-law did not do that to me. We adopted our oldest, and when we adopted her, she was very sick. She was born in Colombia, and a lot of kids in third world countries die from this. Then it was a few months later, we were with my mother-in-law and some of Tom's other family for Thanksgiving after having Courtney, and she got a fever. Well, I was new mama crazy, right? I'm thinking she's going to die, right? Now, my mother in law had also raised 4 children, and we were staying at Tom's aunt's house, who was a pediatric nurse. Okay. But there was no talking me out of it. We had to leave because I was so scared that she was going to die, and we needed to get home to see her doctor. Well, of course, logically, that didn't make any sense, but they were wise enough to not say anything. I did not offer that same grace to my daughter-in-law, and I wish that I had. I wish that I had taken the lesson that my mother-in-law and Tom's aunt really taught me and applied it to the situation rather than dismissing her fear.
I bet you learned, and that's wisdom, right? When we look back and we learn. I've been talking about wisdom a lot on this podcast lately. And so for young moms, especially during the holidays, they're going to be stepping in to all kinds of dynamics. And what are wise ways that moms can navigate all the extended family, the in-law dynamics during the holiday season? What can they do,
Oh,
Lori? Help
gosh.
them.
The million-dollar question, right?
Yes.
Isn't that? And it's so hard, especially if you have both sets of in-laws in your hometown. I think actually stating we've got both sets here, and we'd like if you could be flexible with how we do Christmas, and stating the expectation of, I'm hoping we can come up with something that works for everyone where there's some flexibility involved. I think you've got to say it.
Mm.
And to be creative. Hopefully the grandparents are able to be flexible, but I think from the parents' perspective, if they can actually speak the expectation, hopefully the parents or the grandparents can be flexible and getting ahead of the curve. Like, we've got Christmas coming up. Let's figure this out so that it works for everyone. We want to spend time with you. The kids want to see you. We don't want to kill ourselves in the process of doing this. And we also have another family that we need to honor as well. And it's always best if the adult child speaks to their parent. I think it just tends to go down a little better, and really talk about the blessing of flexibility and the
Mm.
blessing of being creative and not holding on to the traditions so hard. Traditions are nice, but you don't want them to be the thing that separates you either.
I mean, you can create a tradition out
Yeah.
of how that looks for your family. We were so big on traditions, but sometimes our traditions only lasted a year. We'd be like,
Ah,
oh, this is a great tradition. And then next year we'd be on to another tradition,
sure. Yeah.
because of
Flexibility.
flexibility. But in what you're saying, I talk to my husband a lot about how we package it. I like the language you use, the blessedness of creativity, the blessedness of flexibility. And it's a blessing that we can do that. And so a lot of it is in the way that we might communicate. And,
Yes.
and so
Communicate those expectations because they won't be met if you don't communicate them.
so Lori, you've coached hundreds and thousands of parents and families over the years. And so, as coaches, we like to ask questions, right? So, what might be a couple good questions that mom and dad might be able to talk about to prepare to communicate the expectations?
Yeah. So, what do you hope for this season? What sort of outcome do you want? And I think when we really start looking at, well, what do we hope for? Are we tied into the specific day? Really getting down to even some of the details, the nitty-gritty details of even just the schedule. Like, what do you think's going to work for our family? We want to make sure our kids get their naps in during this season. Another thing that's important is to be able to recognize what are the critical things and what are the things that are just nice and what are the things that could maybe be put on hold a little bit. And to figure out where your values lie so that you can come as a united front so that you can speak with confidence rather than just making that assumption of what's going to work for each other's.
I'm going to paint a scenario for you. Mother-in-law has done it this way forever, not willing to bend the slightest. Do you go with a resentful heart, or do you just say, we're just not doing it? How do we navigate that?
Well, if it's your mother-in-law, first of all, the spouse is the one that has to talk to his or her mom.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. And always start with a positive, like,
Mhm.
gosh, mom, I have so appreciated over the years how you have really maintained this tradition for the family. And it has been so special. You've got to point out the obvious. I've got my family and we're kind of stretched in all these different directions. And we would love to weave some of the traditions that you have into our traditions, as we'd also like to make some of our own traditions. And also, we've got another family that we would also like to do the same. So you can see there's a little tug and a pull. I think asking the mother who is stuck on her tradition to help you problem solve.
Oh.
I think that is a really good way to go. But always start with the positives. Like, this was so wonderful versus we can't deal with this. How can we weave this all together so that it feels satisfying for everyone and works for our family as well? Could you help me problem solve with this?
Mhm.
I think you would get a different reaction
Mhm.
to invite
Yeah.
them into the scenario.
Yeah. Feels different to me. Totally. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have some grandbabies and you have son-in-law, daughter-in-law, some that are near and some that are far. So, what do your kids do well to help keep you and your husband involved in the lives of your grandkids?
Oh, I love that. Well, our son and daughter-in-law, they live fairly close to us. And I have the blessing of watching the kids a couple of times a month. They're very good about weaving us into spending time with the kids. Last night, we were able to take the kids to do the Trail of Lights. And we had the best time and we bought these great big huge giant cookies and they let us know when there's a program at the school or even just impromptu, hey, let's get together for dinner. My daughter and son-in-law who live out of state, they're very good at sending us pictures and doing the FaceTime. And then when we are with them, it's that good concentrated time. They basically let us do whatever we want with the kids, which is great. In fact, when my daughter was having baby number 3, and I went out there to be with the older 2, we went to Krispy Kreme donuts all the time, and we were like the regulars. My daughter could have said, "They've had enough donuts." But because we're not there every day, she kind of just is like, "Whatever, mom, whatever you wanna do." So, there's a lot of flexibility when we are there to do things. Each family, and I'm sure you know this too, Misty, handles things differently. Like, one family is way more comfortable with getting things scheduled on the calendar, and another family, they're open to late breaking information. Each family is different, and I think it is up to the grandparent or the in-law to respond to what is comfortable for each family. I think that is up to us, and we need to recognize it and honor that and be respectful of it.
Yeah. So that's good. We have 6. One thing that we do when they get a certain age, we start, and that age is 8, we start taking them for a long weekend by
Oh,
themselves
fun.
somewhere. And so it's kind of complicated because now we have 2 8-year-olds that live in Vermont and we're in the Midwest. And then the other one lives in Houston, Texas. None of our grandkids live close to us.
Mm.
We have 6 kids between us and they all live in a different state than we.
Oh, that's a big challenge, but you're doing so well and you
Ah,
figured out an age that would work.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah, so when we're there with them like you, we are full on. We're very, very blessed that all of the parents want and value the grandparents in the
Yeah,
lives
that's
of their
huge.
kids. It is, I mean, we recognize that. We have this idea about what we want the holidays to look like, and typically it's not realistic. How can a mom even navigate her own expectations and desires during the
Oh,
holidays?
think of Martha, how really she was organized. It's just that her superpower of organizing took over, right? And she wasn't able to remember that just the time spent together was actually even the bigger, more important thing. But it was important that people went to her house. Jesus and the disciples, they went there because they were great hosts. They took care of things and of needs, and that was because Martha got things going. So a lot was because they felt welcome there. Because of, I think sometimes we got to remember the reason for it as we are making our plans. And planning helps. It totally
Uh-huh.
helps. And it makes
Yeah.
people feel like loved and welcomed. That's huge. If you go to someone's home and you're going to be spending the weekend there, what a difference if you walk into the guest room, the bed is made and there's towels laying there for you versus, oh, well, I didn't get around to making the bed, so you'll have to make the bed. To know that
Yeah.
they're ready for you, that's huge. So the Martha piece is big. It's just, it doesn't need to explode.
I feel that what you're saying right there, that like there is someone that really needs to hear that, and that it's not bad. In fact,
Oh,
I love what you said, it's why Jesus went there.
yeah.
He felt welcomed in that space because she had prepared a table and a feast and the environment. She had cultivated that,
Yeah.
but she just lost sight of the most important, and that was being present in that
Yeah.
moment, and he just gently reminded her. So, I just wanna speak to the mom that is planning and, wanting everything to be perfect, and just to encourage her to, remember presence. I just feel like there are so many young moms that want to
Mhm.
create that space. So thank you for highlighting that and bringing that out. That was really powerful. I love this idea of legacy, and I shared earlier how important that has been, especially to my husband these past 2 years, of what it's like to leave a legacy. So as a young mom, what legacy did you see the adults in the lives of your kids leaving that was so valuable to you?
Oh, I love that. And for my book, Grandparents Make Grand Partners, I actually interviewed my kids to see how their grandparents affected their faith. So my dad, he was a poet and he wrote a lot of gosh, really heartfelt, faith-filled poems which we share on the various holidays. And I didn't realize what a big thing they were for my kids. And they mentioned that as I was interviewing them for the book. My dad's faith, which he really was of the generation you don't talk about your faith, but he wrote about it and he liked people reading his poems. And every one of my kids have mentioned how his poems have impacted their faith life. And now my grandson, our oldest grandson, came up to me just the other day and he said, "Mimi, I want you to know I love it when you read," we called my dad Pops, "when you read Pops's poems before we eat." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, my dad is gone, but that legacy is continuing. How powerful is that?" And then, my mom and my mother-in-law, big prayer warrior. And you knew if she said she was praying for you, she was praying for you. And that's impactful. And then, my mom always talked about her Bible study and which impacted me, which is now stirred it with my kids. It's a model. Every one of our kids is involved and their spouses involved in something similar. And, they all make their own decisions, but yet I have to think that at least we laid a little bit of a foundation. And that foundation was laid also by our parents. So that legacy makes a big difference.
How do young parents make a space for grandparents to leave a legacy?
I don't even know if you actually have to even make a space. It can be super organic. I think it's nice to know if you're invited to do that. It's also good to know if they don't want you to do it.
Mm,
And but that doesn't mean you aren't who you are, right? Um, so the ability to pray for, pray with your grandkids. Some families don't want you to pray with your grandkids, but that doesn't stop you from praying for them. Sometimes you can say, well, it's part of our family system that we pray before meals. Are you okay with that? I do think asking for permission, and we don't need a huge chunk of time to communicate our faith. We can do it on the fly. We're walking outside. Wow, look at the world God created. That is so amazing. God is our creator. And he could have made things in black and white, but look, he chose to make it in all these beautiful, vivid colors.
cool.
You continue to be who you are, but be respectful of the parents so that you are still able to enter in to your grandkids' lives.
So keep sowing seeds,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, so Lori, what is one thing that we can share with moms to help them in some way, shape, or form?
I would say remember God's grace
Mm,
because we always we're going to mess up.
mm,
And just to have that humility and the grace, if you can have humility and grace with yourself, then you're more likely to be able to extend it to others. And particularly during this season where it can feel very stressful and anxiety ridden, remember the grace that has been given to us and give it to ourselves and give it to our kiddos. What a wonderful family environment we will have where there's grace extended for those mess ups in life. And I think that would reduce a lot of stress is just by remembering grace. Give that gift and give it to yourself too. So just to extend grace, make grace space for everybody, I would say.
grace space. So, so I feel like even as you're talking, I'm like, I just want to kind of like take a deep breath and breathe in the grace of God. Because if I take it in, then I can exhale it and I can
Yeah.
give it to others. Allow yourself to receive the grace that has been so freely and abundantly given so that when we exhale grace. You have so many beautiful tools, so many books, and I want to get you back on here and talk about a couple of the books that have impacted my life as well.
Mm.
So we'll do that in 2026. We'll glean some more Lori wisdom from
I would
you.
love it.
What is a great place for women to connect and see everything that you have? How can we find you?
Sure. Well, of course, I'm all over social media. So you can find me on social media on Facebook and Instagram. Also, you can just go to my website where you can find all the various resources. LoriWildenberg.com, LoriWildenberg.com, LoriWildenberg.com. And you'll find what you need there. I also have a Facebook community page and a Facebook group called Moms Together. There's moms from all over the world. It is faith-based. We have mom or grandmom type conversations. It's very relational.
That's a really good place to
So,
land and join the conversation. I'll put the link for that in the show notes as well. Yeah, I encourage you to go take a look at all that she has written and all the wisdom that she has shared over the years. Hey, thank you so much. It's so good to see you and have a real conversation with you after all these years. So
I know it is so good to connect. I love it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love you, Misty. So
I love
thank
you
you.
too, Lori. Thank you for all you're doing and all the ways that you are helping me and others be the best that we can possibly
That
be.
God created us to be, right?
Beloved, I hope today's conversation with Lori met you right where you are. Whether your holidays feel peaceful, complicated, joyful, or a little bit of everything, remember, wisdom is not something you muster up. It's something God gives as you walk with Him and ask Him. You don't have to navigate these family relationships alone. He is Emmanuel, God with you. Before you go, I want to personally invite you into something really special. In January, I'm launching a 4-week group coaching experience called Rhythms of Renewal. It begins on Tuesday, January 6th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. This cohort is designed for the mom who's tired of living in survival mode and is ready to step into a new way of showing up in 2026, centered, confident, and connected to God's rhythm of peace. Over 4 weeks, we're going to reset your rhythm, not with resolutions, but with renewal. Together, we're going to explore what it looks like to live in sync with God's design for your life, to build spiritual alignment, practical priorities, and daily habits that bring joy instead of pressure. And something that makes this experience incredibly unique is that we are going to be walking through 2 guided Bible studies together, because the Word of God is living and breathing. And beloved, if you are looking for renewal, you need His breath in you. We're going to inhale deeply together and let His truth shape the way that we lead our families, love our people, and move into the new year. Now, this is a beta group, and the investment will never be this low again. Because you're saying yes to your own transformation, you will be the first to receive a special discount when I launch my new high-level coaching experience this spring. It will be my most comprehensive, life-shaping offer yet. But more than anything, I want you to feel connection, the belonging, and the support that comes when women gather and grow together. If this episode stirred anything in you, a desire for healthier rhythms, stronger relationships, more peace in your home, then Mama, this cohort was created with you in mind. You can find all the details in the show notes, and I would love to walk with you in January. Now, as we close, I want to speak this over you. It's from Matthew 5 in the Message. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. So remember, Mama, when you shine, you give others permission to shine too. Now, go and shine bright this holiday season.